Okay, imagine this for a second. You're standing right in the middle of Gurugram. It's, let's say, mid-2025.
The Millennium City.
Exactly.
Right.
You're surrounded by these massive glass towers, all the Fortune 500 logos, luxury cars gliding by. It's supposed to be the symbol of a rising, confident India.
Right.
But then you go to take a breath and you choke because almost overnight, the city has completely stopped working.
And it wasn't what you'd think. It wasn't a power cut. It wasn't, the internet going down.
Nothing technical.
Nothing like that.
Right.
It was garbage. The Economic Survey for 2025-26, it kicks off Chapter 15 with this incredibly visceral anecdote. In 2025, Gurugram faced a sanitation crisis that literally brought the city to its knees.
So what actually happened? I mean, did the trucks all break down at once?
No, the people just vanished. There was this sudden mass departure of informal migrant workers.
Good.
Specifically, it was the Bengali-speaking community who, as it turns out, were the backbone of the entire waste management workforce. They left because of, fears about some law enforcement actions.
And when they left...
The system didn't just slow down, it completely collapsed. I mean, total failure.
Wow. So you have these multi-crore gated communities, these fancy apartments, and suddenly there's just trash piling up at their gates.
Exactly that. The door-to-door collection, that stopped. The segregation of waste, that stopped. The processing centers, they ground to a halt. You had residents scrambling, trying to hire ad hoc vehicles, but they were just completely overwhelmed.
It's like it revealed the city's invisible skeleton.
That's the perfect way to put it. We all look at the shiny glass facades, but the city actually runs on the backs of this informal labor. And the moment that labor feels threatened and leaves, the Millennium City turns into a landfill in just a matter of days.
That is a terrifying, but honestly a perfect hook. It just rips the mask off the shiny infrastructure and forces you to look at the fragility underneath. It really sets the stage for what we're going to talk about today, which is this idea of the unfinished promise of our cities.
It's a huge wake-up call. That's what it is.
And before we get any deeper into this, I want to give a massive, really warm welcome to all the learners joining us for this deep dive. This is, of course, brought to you by the Simplified UPSC by PPP YouTube channel.
We're so glad you're with us.
Whether you are deep in your prep for the civil services or you just want to understand the economic engine of this country, believe me, you are in the right place.
We're going to get into some pretty technical stuff today, but we promise we'll keep it accessible. We'll break it all down.
Absolutely. Now, a quick but a really vital request from our side. We're a small, very dedicated team, and we spend a lot of time digging through these massive government documents to bring you these kinds of insights.
We do.
So if you find value in this, please hit that subscribe button. And if you're in a position to, please consider joining our paid membership on YouTube. It directly supports our work, and honestly, it keeps these deep dives coming.
And to our existing members, a huge shout out. You guys are the absolute bedrock of this channel. You are the reason we can do this.
Thank you so much. And please do hit the like button, leave a comment. Tell us what you think about that Gurugram story. It really helps the algorithm find other serious learners like you.
It really does.
And one more thing.
Yeah.
Don't feel like you need to memorize every single thing we say. We've got resources for you.
Yes.
The free notes, which include Propus Previous Year questions or PYQs, are available for you right now on our Telegram channel. The link is in the description. Go grab them.
They're super helpful for revision.
And for our Legend members on YouTube, please head over to our Discord channel. Your premium notes are waiting for you there. And these are a bit special. They include extra PYQs and, crucially, model mains answers to help you structure your writing for the exam.
Trust me, those model answers are gold for mains preparation. Don't miss out on those.
Okay, with all that said, let's get into the machine. Today, we are performing a comprehensive line-by-line autopsy of Chapter 15 of the Economic Survey 2025-26.
The title is Urbanization, Making India's Cities Work for Its Citizens.
And I think we should set a clear mission for this deep dive. We're not just going to summarize the chapter.
No, not at all. We're decoding it. The plan is to take the data, the arguments from this chapter, and link them directly to UPSC mains questions from the last decade.
Specifically, we've pulled questions from 2013, 2014, 2016, 2020, and the very recent 2025 paper.
Right. The goal is to see how this one document, the latest economic survey, can help you answer all those different questions.
Let's do it. Let's start with part 1, the philosophy of urbanization. The survey begins with a definition of a city that feels, well, it feels different. It's not the usual, a place where lots of people live.
No, it completely shifts the paradigm. The The survey defines a city as critical economic infrastructure.
That's a really interesting phrase, critical economic infrastructure. Because, when I think of infrastructure, I think of a highway, a bridge, a power plant.
Hard assets, tangible things.
Exactly. But here they're saying the city itself, the very density of people and businesses, is the infrastructure.
Precisely. The whole argument is based on a core economic concept called agglomeration economies.
Okay, let's unpack that. Agglomeration economies. It sounds a bit like something from a PhD thesis. What does it actually mean for, the person walking down the street in Mumbai or Delhi?
Well, think of it as a kind of coffee shop effect, but on a massive citywide scale. The basic formula the survey lays out is density plus proximity equals productivity.
Density plus proximity equals productivity.
When you pack a lot of people and firms together, three specific, almost magical mechanisms kick in. The first one is matching.
Matching?
Yes. Think about it. If you're a highly specialized AI ethics consultant, where are you more likely to find a job?
Yeah.
In Bengaluru or in a remote village?
Bengaluru, obviously.
Right. And the company looking for you is also more likely to find you there. The labor market is deeper and more efficient, so there's less time spent searching and more time spent actually working and creating value. That's matching.
Okay, that makes sense. What's the second one?
The second is sharing. In a dense city, businesses can share specialized infrastructure, they can share suppliers, legal services, a pool of talent.
So, like in Tirupur, the textile hub.
Perfect example. If you're a garment manufacturer in Tirupur, you have repair technicians, button suppliers, dye houses, shipping agents, all within a 5-kilometer radius. That drastically lowers your costs compared to if you were operating in isolation.
Right. The whole ecosystem is right there.
The whole ecosystem. And that brings us to the third and maybe the most important mechanism, learning, or what economists call knowledge spillovers.
The magic sauce.
That's it. This is the magic sauce. When smart, ambitious people bump into other smart, ambitious people in cafes, in co-working spaces, in elevators, at conferences, ideas cross-pollinate.
Spontaneous innovation.
Exactly. You get unexpected collaborations. A coder meets a designer and a new app is born. The survey actually cites a big meta-analysis on this by Grover, Lal, and Timis from 2021.
And what did they find?
They looked at cities across India and found that, on average, just doubling a city's size typically boosts its productivity by around 12%.
Wait, just by getting bigger, you get a 12% productivity bump for everyone.
On average, yes. It's an incredible engine. As the urbanist Edward Glaser famously said, cities are humanity's greatest invention. They make us richer, smarter, and actually greener.
Greener. That feels counterintuitive.
Well, dense apartment living is far more energy efficient per person than a sprawling suburban house. Public transport becomes viable. So per capita, cities have a smaller carbon footprint.
Okay, but this is where it gets confusing for me. If cities are these magical engines of wealth and innovation,
right,
and India has some of the biggest cities on the planet, Mumbai, Delhi, Kolkata, Bengaluru, why does it so often feel like our engines are sputtering? Why aren't we seeing that explosive improvement in quality of life?
And that right there is the great paradox that the survey puts front and center.
Get their paradox.
Yes, we have the scale. No one can deny that. Our city populations are absolutely massive global giants. But, and this is the crucial part, we haven't managed to translate that scale into proportionate productivity or livability.
Does the survey give us any numbers to back this up? A comparison, maybe?
It does. It does a quick comparison of India versus the US, Germany, and China. In India, our top 10 cities hold about 9% of the country's total population.
Okay, 9%.
But they generate nearly 28% of the GDP.
That sounds pretty good, actually. It sounds like they're punching way above their weight.
It is impressive in one sense, but it also shows how highly concentrated our economic activity is. And here's the problem. Despite that huge economic weight, our cities aren't functioning as efficient global nodes. They're bogged down.
What do you mean by bogged down?
I mean, if you spend 3 hours stuck in traffic on the outer ring road in Bengaluru, you're not experiencing agglomeration economies. You're just wasting fuel and human potential. The congestion, the pollution, the terrible air quality, the poor governance, all these things act as a huge invisible tax on our productivity.
So we have the scale, but not the efficiency.
We're big, but we're not smart. Not yet. We're leaving a massive amount of economic potential on the table because of these frictions.
And there's another layer to this paradox that the survey talks about, which I found fascinating. This idea of hidden urbanization.
Yes, this is so important. It highlights a massive gap between the administrative data and the reality on the ground.
How so?
Well, the census of India has a very strict, almost rigid three-part definition of what officially counts as urban.
What are the criteria?
To be a census town, a settlement needs 1, a population of at least 5,000 people. 2, at least 75% of the male main working population has to be in non-agricultural jobs. And 3, a population density of at least 400 people per square kilometer.
That's incredibly specific. 75% of the male workforce.
It is. And if you miss even one of those criteria, you are officially classified as rural. You're a village.
Even if you have a massive population and everyone works in a factory next door?
Exactly. But the survey did something really interesting. They didn't just look at the census data. They looked at India from space.
Using satellites.
Yes, using nighttime lights, NTL data, from ISRO's Bhuvan portal. They looked at where India is glowing at night.
And what did the satellites see?
That saw that the glowing footprint of our cities, our urban clusters, is much, much larger than the official administrative maps suggest. We have these massive swaths of the country that look urban from space, that feel urban when you drive through them, and that act urban economically. But they are still being governed as panchayats, as villages.
So that's the hidden urbanization.
That's it. It's urbanization that's fallen through the cracks of our own definitions.
The survey brings up Kerala as a specific case study for this in box XEB.1.
Yes, and Kerala is a perfect, unique example. It completely defies the standard definition of a city. It's not a single dot on a map with a clear center and suburbs.
It's more like a continuous line.
It's a continuous urban conurbation. That's the term they use. You can drive for hours along the Kerala coast, say from Thiruvananthapuram up towards Kochi, and never really feel like you've left an urban settlement.
You pass through what are officially 10 different villages, but it's all one long ribbon-like city.
Exactly. It's like a suburb that just never ends. And the problem is, because the government officially classifies these areas as rural, they don't get proper urban planning. They don't get integrated sewage systems or proper zoning regulations or urban transport authorities.
They just grow chaotically.
And we're left trying to fix the problems decades later.
This brings us to our first major PYQ linkage. I want to pull up a question from GS1 from the 2014 paper. Question 1.
Okay.
It asked, to what extent has the urban planning and culture of the Indus Valley civilization provided inputs to the present-day urbanization?
That is a brilliant, brilliant connection to make here. Let's think about the Indus Valley civilization, Harappa, Mohenjo-Daro. We're talking 4,000, 5,000 years ago. What were they famous for?
The grid system for the streets. The incredibly advanced drainage. The Great Bath. It was all about order.
Exactly. They were famous for planning, for foresight. They laid out the streets in a precise grid before they built the houses. They engineered the drainage systems with a gentle slope. They had a clear separation of public and private spaces.
It was proactive.
It was proactive, planned, and intentional. Now, compare that ancient civilization with our hidden urbanization today, like the Kerala example.
It's the complete opposite. It's accidental. It's reactive.
It is absolutely reactive. We are letting the city sprawl wherever it wants, and then 20 years later, we try to dig up a congested road to lay a sewer pipe. The survey is making a very powerful, if implicit, argument here that we have, in many ways, regressed from the Harappan standard.
We're less organized than our ancestors.
We are letting cities happen to us rather than designing them for our citizens.
Yeah.
And the first step to fixing that is to actually acknowledge this hidden urbanization so we can start to govern it properly instead of pretending it's just a collection of villages.
That is a very sobering thought, which leads us perfectly into part 2. If the philosophy is that our cities should be these powerful economic engines, what is the core mechanic that's broken? The survey points a finger directly at one thing: governance.
This is, I think, the most biting and important critique in the entire chapter. The survey makes a bold, clear statement. Indian cities are administered, but global cities are governed.
Okay, administered, not governed. That's a powerful distinction. It sounds great, but let's break it down for the listener. What is the practical, on-the-ground difference?
It's all about who holds the power and, more importantly, who they are accountable to.
Right.
In a global city, let's say London or New York or Tokyo, the mayor is a political heavyweight. They are a powerful, directly elected executive. They often control the city's budget, the transport system, sometimes even the police.
And they answer to the people of the city?
They answer directly to the voters of that city. If the subway is dangerous or the garbage isn't collected, the mayor risks losing the next election. The accountability loop is short and direct.
And how does it work in India?
In India, our cities are largely run by municipal commissioners. These are typically senior IAS officers, brilliant bureaucrats, but they are appointed by the state government.
So they report up to the chief minister in the state capital.
Exactly, not down to the local voters. The mayor in most Indian cities, with a few exceptions, is often a ceremonial figure. They have a title, they cut ribbons at events, but they don't control the budget or the bureaucracy. They don't sign the big checks.
So that feedback loop, that accountability, is completely broken. The person actually running the city doesn't depend on the city's vote to keep their job.
Precisely. And this leads to a massive problem the survey calls fragmentation. Let's take a city like Bengaluru. Who actually runs Bengaluru?
Well, there's the BBMP, the Municipal Corporation.
Right. Then there's the BDA, the Bangalore Development Authority, which handles planning. There's the Water Supply and Sewerage Board. There's the Bangalore Metro Rail Corporation. There's the City Police.
And they all report to different bosses.
They all report to different ministries and departments in the state capital, Vidhana Sudha. There's no single city government or a single person who owns the city's problems. Everyone can pass the buck.
This sounds exactly like the governance nightmare we see playing out in Delhi all the time.
It's the same fundamental structural flaw, and this connects directly to a PYQ from 2016 GS2, question 1.
Let me pull it up. It asked about the 69th Constitutional Amendment and the conflict between the elected representatives and the lieutenant governor in Delhi.
Right. That constant political tussle over who controls services, the bureaucracy, is just the most visible symptom of this broader nationwide disease of fragmented governance. The survey is arguing that for our cities to truly work, we need real devolution of power. We need to empower the urban local bodies, the ULBs. We need empowered mayors.
But you can't really govern if you're broke. And that seems to be the other equally important half of this governance deficit. The survey uses the term fiscal impotence.
The data on this is genuinely shocking. I mean, it's one of those stats that makes you do a double take. Indian cities combined raise less than 0.6% of GDP in their own source revenue.
Wait, say that again? Less than 0.6%?
Less than 1%. It's about 0.55% to be precise. Now, compare that to cities in OECD countries, the wealthy nations. They typically raise about 2% to 4% of their national GDP themselves.
Okay, that's a huge gap.
It's a chasm. Even in our developing peers like Brazil or South Africa, the number is significantly higher. Our cities are operating on financial peanuts.
Why? I mean, are our cities just that poor?
No, absolutely not. It's not a lack of wealth. It's a lack of political and administrative will to tax that wealth. The single biggest source of city revenue globally is property tax.
Right.
But in India, property tax is vastly underutilized. It's politically toxic to collect it properly. Local corporators and councillors are terrified that if they actually reassess properties to their true market value or enforce collection strictly, they'll lose the next election.
So they just let it slide.
They let it slide, they underassess properties, they don't update their records for decades. The collection rates are abysmal.
So because they don't collect their own taxes, the city has no money.
And because they have no money, they have to go with a begging bowl to the state or the central government for grants and transfers. They become completely dependent. They are, as the survey implies, beggars in their own house.
The survey also mentions municipal bonds. I remember looking at chart XV.8 on this.
Yes, and it's a great idea in theory. A few cities like Pune, Indore, and Ahmedabad have successfully issued bonds to raise money directly from the capital markets for big projects.
But the chart, it was basically a flat line.
It's a tiny, tiny fraction of their total funding. The municipal bond market is incredibly shallow. And why? Because investors don't trust the city's financial statements. If a city can't even get its act together to collect its own property taxes, why would a serious investor lend it hundreds of crores? The balance sheets are just not credible.
This links so directly to a question from the 2025 Mains GS2 question 14 on fiscal federalism.
Precisely. That question asked about the evolving pattern of center-state financial relations. But you can't give a complete answer to that without discussing the often forgotten third tier, the cities and panchayats.
They're at the bottom of the food chain.
They're at the very bottom. The GST regime, for better or worse, has centralized a lot of revenue collection with the center. The finance commissions then recommend how to divide it between the center and the states. But the cities are left waiting for the states to pass on the funds. They are chronically starved of resources.
And without money, the whole idea of people's participation becomes a bit of a joke.
It really does. Look at PYQ 2016, GS2, question 11. It asked about the effectiveness of the government system and people's participation.
Right.
How can you have meaningful people's participation in your local ward if the ward committee has zero budget? If I, as a citizen, can't even collectively decide how to spend, say, 10,000 rupees to fix a streetlight or a broken pavement, then why should I even bother showing up for the meetings?
It's just a talking shop.
It's just a talking shop. Financial power is the fuel for local democracy. Without it, everything else is just performative.
Okay, so just to recap where we are. We have cities that are growing accidentally, they're being administered by bureaucrats instead of being governed by elected leaders, and they're financially broken.
A pretty grim picture so far.
It is. Now let's look at the physical constraints that are blocking our growth. Let's move to part 3. Land. The survey uses a very evocative term here, which you mentioned earlier. It calls land in India dead capital.
That term originally comes from the Peruvian economist Hernando de Soto, and it's a powerful concept. The idea is simple. Land, especially in a city, should be your most valuable and productive asset.
It should be working for you.
It should be working for you. But in India, a web of outdated regulations and crucially unclear property titles makes it incredibly hard to use that asset productively. It's dead. Because its economic potential is locked up, it's frozen.
And the survey identifies a big culprit here, FSI, right? Floor space index.
Yes, sometimes it's called FAR, or floor area ratio. It's essentially the same thing. It's a number set by the city planners that dictates how much you can build on a piece of land. A higher FSI means you can build a taller building.
And historically, India has had a strange obsession with keeping FSI very low.
An obsession is the right word. We effectively forced our buildings, and by extension our cities, to be short and stunted.
What was the logic behind that? Was it this fear of if we build tall, we'll run out of water and the drains will overflow?
That was basically it, yes. The planners feared, not entirely without reason, that high density would overwhelm the already strained infrastructure. But the survey argues this policy backfired spectacularly.
How so?
Because we restricted vertical growth, cities had only one way to grow, outwards. We got uncontrolled horizontal sprawl. Our cities just spread and spread, eating up agricultural land for miles around.
And sprawl is expensive.
It is incredibly expensive and inefficient. Think about the basic geometry of it. If you have 1 million people living in a compact, dense cluster of tall buildings, you might need, say, 10 kilometers of metro line and sewage pipes to serve them.
Okay.
But if those same 1 million people are spread out over 50 kilometers of low-rise sprawl, you need 50 kilometers of metro line, 50 kilometers of pipes, 50 kilometers of roads. Sprawl makes providing public services a nightmare. It makes the city inefficient and massively carbon intensive.
So the survey is suggesting we should just build skyscrapers everywhere, like Hong Kong.
Not quite everywhere. It suggests a more intelligent approach, allowing much higher FSI in core city areas and along major transport corridors. The strategy is densification. Chennai is already planning to do this.
But there's a catch.
There's a massive but. The survey gives a very stark warning. Density without infrastructure equals chaos.
That makes perfect sense. You can't just approve a 50-story residential tower if the sewage pipe running underneath the street is from the 1950s.
You absolutely cannot. If you don't upgrade the water supply, the electricity grid, the roads, and the public transport simultaneously with the increase in density, you just create vertical slums. You get permanent traffic gridlock and overflowing drains. So FSI reform has to be part of an integrated plan, not a standalone decision.
And what about the other part of dead capital, the ownership aspect?
Land titles. This is the other huge problem. For a vast number of properties in India, we simply don't have clear, guaranteed titles. The records are a mess of old paper files prone to fraud with endless litigation.
So you might own a piece of land, but you can't really prove it in a way that a bank will trust.
Exactly, which means you can't easily get a loan against it. You can't sell it quickly. Its value is locked. The survey highlights the government's efforts to fix this, specifically ULPN, which is also called BU-Aadhaar, and the DLRMP, the Digital India Land Records Modernization Program.
BU-Aadhaar. So it's like an Aadhaar card, but for your plot of land.
That's the idea. A unique 14-digit ID for every single parcel of land in the country, linked to its survey records and ownership details. If we can actually implement this, if we can digitize all the records and create a single source of truth for land ownership, we can unlock trillions of dollars of value. It turns dead capital into live capital.
I can see a PYQ connection here, though it's a bit technical. From 2013 GS3 question 3, it asked about tax expenditure in the context of the housing sector.
Ah, yes, that's a great pull. Tax expenditure is a slightly tricky concept, but it's important. It basically means the revenue that the government chooses to give up through special tax breaks and deductions.
Like the tax deduction on your home loan interest.
Exactly. The government gives you that deduction to encourage you to buy a house. It's a huge subsidy to boost the demand for housing.
Okay, so on one hand, we're pumping up demand with these subsidies.
We are. But the survey's discussion on land suggests we need to look at the supply side. What happens if you pump up demand with tax breaks, but you artificially restrict supply with low FSI and make construction difficult with bad land records?
The prices just go through the roof.
Exactly. You end up just subsidizing asset price inflation, making housing even less affordable for the next person. The survey is nudging us to realize that solving the housing crisis isn't just about giving people more money to buy homes. It's about fixing the regulatory cholesterol on the supply side that makes homes so expensive to build in the first place.
Let's move from where people live to how they move. Part 4, mobility, or as our outline puts it, the philosophy of moving people, not vehicles.
This is such a critical diagnosis that the survey makes. It says that our city roads are being used primarily as storage for private vehicles rather than as corridors for movement.
That is such a good way to put it. I've never thought of it like that. When you're stuck in a traffic jam on the ring road, you are literally just storing your private car on valuable public land.
And you're paying almost nothing for that privilege. This storage has a very real, very high economic cost. The survey cites a report by the Center for Science and Environment, the CSE.
What did it find?
They calculated that an unskilled worker in Delhi loses between $7,200 and $19,600 every single year just due to time wasted in traffic congestion.
That could be an entire month's wages for them.
Yeah.
Just vanished into thin air, into exhaust fumes.
Precisely. Congestion is a deeply regressive tax. It hurts the poor the most, the ones who can least afford to waste that time.
So the obvious solution is to get people out of private cars and onto public transport. We're building metros in almost every good city now. Is that enough?
You would think so. The metro network expansion is a huge achievement. But the survey points out a critical flaw in our approach.
Well, here it is.
The problem of first and last mile connectivity. A metro system is only as good as your ability to get to and from the station.
Right. If the station is 2 kilometers from my house and there's no safe way to walk or a cheap way to get there,
then the metro is useless to you. If I have to take an expensive auto or a cab just to get to the metro station, I might as well just drive my own car or scooter the whole way. The survey emphasizes that without a dense, integrated network of feeder services, e-rickshaws, shared autos, bike taxis, safe pedestrian paths, the massive investment in the metro will never reach its full potential.
And this ties into the idea of TOD, right? Transit-oriented development.
Yes, and this links back to our earlier discussion on FSI. TOD is the idea that you don't just build a metro station in the middle of nowhere. You build a dense, mixed-use city around the station.
So high-rise offices, apartments, shops, restaurants, all within a 5-10 minute walk of the metro entrance.
Exactly. You don't just build a station, you build a whole neighborhood around it. That creates a 15-minute city bubble around each transit node, drastically reducing the need for private vehicles.
There's a big PYQ link here regarding how we actually pay for these massive projects. From 2013 GS2, question 10, it's about public-private partnership, PPP.
A huge link. These massive transport projects, the metros, the new airports, they're almost all being built using the PPP model now. But the survey makes a very nuanced and important point about this. It says that PPP shouldn't just be about risk transfer.
What does that mean, risk transfer?
Well, often in the past, the government's approach was to just dump all the project risks, construction delays, cost overruns onto a private company. Or, on the other side, the private company would negotiate a deal where they get guaranteed high returns no matter how badly the project performs.
So it's not a real partnership.
It's not. The survey argues we need to move towards a model of true partnership, where the private sector's incentives are aligned with public good. Their profits should be linked to service quality, not just to pouring concrete.
So they should make more money if the trains run on time and the stations are clean.
Exactly. Not just because they finished building the track. The focus needs to shift from building assets to delivering high-quality services.
Okay, let's move to what is literally the messiest part of the city.
Yeah.
Part 5, sanitation, waste, and the smart city. This brings us full circle, back to the Gurugram crisis.
It does. And we have to start by acknowledging a huge success story here, which is the Swachh Bharat Mission Urban SBMU. The survey is clear that we have, by and large, eliminated open defecation in urban India.
Which is a massive achievement for public health and human dignity.
A monumental achievement. But, and there's always a but, the challenge has now shifted. The next frontier is solid waste management.
So we solve the problem of access by building toilets.
And now we have a behavior bottleneck. The problem isn't infrastructure anymore, it's what people do with their trash every day. The survey talks about the star rating system for garbage-free cities.
Right, from 1 star up to 7 star.
Yes, and what the data shows is that we have many cities that are now doing 100% door-to-door collection of waste. That's a 1-star or 3-star level of behavior. But far fewer cities are achieving 100% source segregation.
And source segregation, just to be clear, that means me, in my kitchen, separating my wet food waste from my dry plastic and paper waste.
That's it. And if you don't do that at the source in every single household, the entire system downstream fails. You simply cannot process or recycle mixed waste efficiently. It just ends up in a massive stinking landfill, catching fire or leaching toxins into the groundwater.
This isn't just about smell and aesthetics. This is a life and death issue. There's a PYQ from 2020, GS1, question 15, which asked about the causes and remedies for flooding in million-plus cities like Hyderabad and Pune.
This is a direct cause and effect link. Why do our cities flood so catastrophically after just a few hours of heavy rain? Part of it is climate change, yes, more extreme weather events, but a huge part of it is simply clogged drains.
All the plastic bags and bottles.
Exactly. If you don't manage your solid waste properly, if plastic bags, bottles, and construction debris choke the stormwater drains, then even a moderate amount of rain has nowhere to go. The city floods. The survey is arguing that effective solid waste management is actually a flood mitigation strategy. You absolutely cannot separate the two.
Now, where does technology fit into all of this? We hear the term smart city all the time.
Right. The Smart Cities Mission, SEM, was a major government initiative. It set up these integrated command and control centers, or ICCCs, in 100 cities. And the big shift, as the survey sees it, is moving from just pouring concrete and building physical infrastructure to data-driven governance.
We've got 3 different PYQs that touch on this area. Let's try to cycle through them. First, from 2016 GS3 question 4, a very direct question. What are smart cities?
The survey gives a very clear functional answer. A smart city isn't just about giving everyone free Wi-Fi. It's about using technology and data to modernize infrastructure and improve the quality of life for citizens.
Can you give an example?
Sure. It's about putting sensors on public garbage bins to know when they're full, so the collection truck doesn't waste fuel and time-checking empty bins. It's about using smart traffic lights that adapt to real-time congestion. It's all about efficiency and better service delivery.
Then there's a more critical one from the recent 2025 mains, GS1 question 8. It asks how smart cities can address the issues of urban poverty and distributive justice.
This is a really important question because there's a common criticism that smart cities are just for the rich, that they're about creating fancy enclaves with good internet while the slums next door are ignored.
Right.
But the survey argues that if designed correctly, technology can be a powerful tool for equity. How? By ensuring universal and non-discriminatory access to basic services.
So data can remove human bias.
Ideally, yes. For example, if a smart city uses SCADA systems to monitor water pressure in its pipes 24/7, it can immediately detect and fix a leak, ensuring that the slum at the end of the pipeline gets its fair share of water just as reliably as the rich neighborhood. It can help break the power of the water mafia.
So it's about accountability through technology.
Exactly. If a simple mobile app allows a poor street vendor to apply for a license and get it without having to bribe a local official, that is technology delivering distributive justice. It can level the playing field.
And finally, a very specific one, also from 2025, GS1, question 15. It's about the use of AI and drones in urban planning.
And the survey specifically mentions the use of GIS and spatial monitoring as key tools. We can use drones to map the growth of unauthorized colonies with incredible accuracy. We can use AI to analyze traffic patterns and predict future congestion hotspots. These are no longer sci-fi technologies. They're the essential tools for modern urban planning.
This focus on the street vendor leads us perfectly into our next section, part 6, informality. The survey has a very specific and I would say almost radical take on this.
It completely reframes the entire debate around informality. For decades, our urban planners and policymakers have treated slums, street vendors, and the informal economy as a failure, an eyesore, or a problem that needed to be eradicated.
Something to be cleaned up and removed.
Right, the survey says, no, that's the wrong way to look at it. Informality is not a failure. It is a structural outcome of rapid and often inequitable urbanization.
So it's not a bug in the system, it's a feature.
In a way, yes. Slums exist because the formal housing market has completely failed to provide affordable housing near places of work. Slums are the solution that people, through their own ingenuity, have found for themselves. They are a rational response to an irrational market.
And we saw in that opening Gurugram story what happens when that solution, that informal workforce, suddenly disappears.
The city collapses. That story proves that informal labor is not peripheral, it is indispensable. So the big policy shift that the survey advocates for is this. Stop trying to eradicate slums and the informal sector. Start finding ways to integrate them.
Integration over eradication.
Yes. The focus should be on in situ upgradation. Instead of bulldozing a slum and relocating people miles away from their jobs, go into the slum and provide basic services. Give them secure tenure, clean water, proper sanitation, and paved lanes.
But we do have a massive formal housing shortage.
We do, and the survey provides the numbers. The overall shortage is estimated to be around 29 to 30 million housing units. And what's really worrying is that the supply of new affordable housing is actually shrinking.
That seems wrong. Why is that?
Well, in the top 8 cities, the share of affordable housing in the total new supply has dropped from about 52% back in 2018 to just 17% in 2025.
Why the drastic fall?
Because land costs have shot up, construction material costs have gone up, and developers can make much higher profits building luxury apartments and villas. So the private market, left to its own devices, is not building for the poor.
So how do we integrate the informal worker if we can't even house them?
We have to focus on supporting their livelihoods. The survey praises schemes like PM Svaniti, which provided working capital loans to street vendors during the pandemic. It gave them a formal identity, access to digital payments, and a foothold in the formal financial system. That is the model for integration.
And this loops right back to that 2025 GS1 question on distributive justice.
It absolutely does. The core argument is that you cannot claim to have a smart city or a developed India if 40% of your urban workforce is invisible, vulnerable, and excluded from the system. Integration isn't just a moral imperative, it's an economic necessity.
Okay, we've talked about governance, finance, land, mobility, and informality. Now we are entering the psychological zone, part 7, civic order and the social contract. The survey introduces a term here that actually made me laugh out loud. Gross domestic behavior, GDB.
Chuckles. I love this concept too. It comes from an old India Today survey, but the idea is timeless. It poses that fundamental, uncomfortable question. Why do so many of us in India keep our own homes spotlessly clean, literally scrubbing the floors daily, but then have no problem throwing our garbage on the street corner right outside?
It's the ultimate not in my backyard syndrome. My home is my castle, but the street is someone else's problem.
But the survey doesn't just blame it on culture, it goes deeper. It introduces a concept called contextual compliance, and it uses the example in box XV.5, which compares the Delhi metro to a DTC bus.
Oh, I know this phenomenon so well. You see it every day. Inside the Delhi metro, everyone stands in a neat line. It's quiet, it's spotlessly clean, no one dares to eat or spit.
They behave perfectly.
Perfectly. But the moment those same people step out of the metro station and try to get onto a public bus, it's complete chaos. Shoving, pushing, littering. Same people, but completely different behavior just minutes apart. Why?
Because the environment, the system, is completely different. The metro system is clean, it's well lit, there are cameras everywhere, the rules are clear, and they are predictably enforced. It's a high-trust environment.
And the bus system?
The bus system is often dirty, overcrowded, unpredictable, and the rules are rarely enforced. It's a low-trust, chaotic environment, so people adapt their behavior accordingly.
So we can't just blame Indian culture or bad mindset?
No, that's a lazy explanation. The survey's huge takeaway here is this. Behavior is a function of the system. If the system is broken, unpredictable, and unfair, the social contract breaks down and people behave selfishly.
But if you fix the system?
If you fix the system, you can fix the behavior. If the garbage truck comes reliably every single day at 8 a.m., people will wait for it. If it comes randomly once a week, people will just dump their trash on the nearest corner. Predictable enforcement plus reliable services equals better civic behavior.
That is such a profound insight for governance. It puts the onus back on the state to provide a system worth respecting.
It does.
Okay, let's move to our final section, Part 8. The non-tangible aspects of future cities. This is about moving beyond the concrete and pipes and thinking about the soul of the city.
Right. The survey argues that a great city is more than just its economic output. We need to start planning for these non-tangible aspects. For instance, we need to think about time as a resource.
How so?
A city that forces its citizens to waste 3 hours a day commuting is stealing their lives. The 15-minute city concept is implied here. We need to design neighborhoods where your basic needs, shops, schools, parks, clinics, are all within a short walk or cycle ride.
The survey also mentions the 880 rule. What's that?
Oh, this is a beautiful concept from the urbanist Guillermo Penalosa. He says a street, a park, or a public space is only truly good if it is safe and enjoyable for both an 8-year-old child and an 80-year-old senior.
That's a great metric.
It is. If your city is only designed for a fit 30-year-old who can dodge traffic and jump over broken pavements, then it's a failed city.
And the idea of creative density.
Yes. Cities need more than just offices and apartments. They need what are called third places. Parks, libraries, public squares, cafes, art galleries, places that aren't work and aren't home, where people can just be. This is what creates a sense of community and what the survey calls the endowment effect.
The endowment effect.
It's the feeling of psychological ownership. When citizens feel like the city's parks and libraries belong to them, they take care of them, they protect them, they feel a sense of belonging.
This connects really well to that PYQ from 2025, GS2 question 7, which was on the importance of user-centric design in e-governance.
It's the same principle. Whether you are designing a government website or a physical city street, the design process must be centered on the needs and experiences of the end user, the citizen. Not the convenience of the bureaucrat, not the speed of the car, but the quality of life for the human being.
We have covered a huge amount of ground here. Let's try to wrap this up with our outro. To summarize, the survey brings in what we can call the 3 wise men. Not the biblical ones, but the 3 essential pillars needed for the future of Indian cities.
Right. If you want to distill this entire dense chapter down to 3 key action points, they are:
governance reform. We need real devolution of power. We need empowered, directly elected mayors and strong urban local bodies.
Second.
Number 2, financial autonomy. Our cities must be able to raise their own money. This means fixing property tax collection and developing a deep and robust market for municipal bonds. And the third pillar, number 3, integrated infrastructure and planning. We need to stop thinking in silos. Transport planning, land use planning, and environmental planning must all be done together. We need to build systems, not just individual projects, and incorporate things like nature-based solutions and climate resilience from day one.
And what's the final provocative thought that the survey leaves us with?
It ends on a very deep, almost philosophical note. It talks about internal change. It says that building state capacity isn't just about hiring more people or buying more computers. It's about changing the fundamental incentives within the system.
And for us as citizens?
For us, it asks the most important question of all. Are we, the citizens of India, ready to make the shift from a culture of mere compliance, where we only follow the rules if a cop is watching or a fine is threatened, to a genuine culture of ownership, where we follow the rules because this is our city and we have a stake in its success?
That is the question to leave all of you with. When you step outside your door tomorrow, is this your city? Well, thank you so much for listening to this very deep dive on Chapter 15 of the Economic Survey. If this helped you unpack this complex document, please consider supporting Simplified UPSC by PPP.
The best way to do that is to subscribe to the channel, and if you can, join the membership. It makes a huge difference and allows us to keep doing this.
And don't forget your resources. The free notes with PYQs are on our Telegram channel, and that incredible premium content, including the Model Mains answers, is waiting for our Legend members on Discord.
Keep learning. Keep questioning.
We'll see you in the next deep dive.